Are you ready to learn? Because my super experienced guests are ready to share some really valuable information. Make sure and listen all the way to the end to get help and support. So let's start with the best audio experience.
Hello everyone and welcome to our show. Today we discuss about call to actions, how you can get more results, sales, traffic. And I'm excited to discuss this topic with Justin Dunham. How are you?
Hey, how's it going, Anatoly? Thank you for having me on the podcast. It's, you put out great stuff on LinkedIn all the time. It's just exciting to be able to talk with you about this.
Yeah, for me as well, because, I check out your profile. Yeah, you have extended experience. So I'm excited to learn more because, many people are thinking that I have this podcast because of the sake to grow my audience. But, the first reason I'm learning, I love learning from experts like you, when I'm talking to experts, to Neil Patel, Ren Fishkin, Craig Campbell, Lily Ray, many others. And today I'm so excited to discuss with you because I can learn, and everyone can do it. Yeah. Okay, before we start, just tell more about yourself, your experience, background, and why you decided to take this topic.
Yeah, absolutely. So I run an agency called AirQL, and we are called AirQL because we are named after a fictional detective who is very short, and we are small but effective. That's why we called ourselves that, small boutique. And we work with clients on lots of different things, but we really put SEO and content strategy at the heart of all of our engagements. And the reason for that is content is really the heart of marketing. And another big reason for that is I happen to have a background of being pretty technical, pretty analytical, love spreadsheets, love code. But a lot of folks like writers and content marketers and other people like that don't have the same level of comfort with those tools. They want to write, they want to be creative, they want to talk about the brand and the story. They don't want to spend all day in Google Analytics and spreadsheets. So part of the reason I started AirQL was really to bring all that technical stuff and analytical stuff and process stuff and make it a lot easier for those folks, because you shouldn't have to have, an MBA or a PhD in math or be, a spreadsheet whiz to be an effective marketer in 2022. So.
Yeah, love it. Because remember when I asked Neil Patel about his college degree, and he replied to me that was the worst time. No, not the worst time. I read his story, and he shared on his story that that was not good decision to go to college because he wanna be entrepreneur, and entrepreneur needs to have critical thinking of how to decide some problems. But on college, everyone told him, you need to go to college, you have no future without the college. But today, for example, I have financial education, but I jumped on this field without having any marketing education. And when I spoke with many great experts, they have different degrees, but some of them, they have marketing experience, marketing degree, but in most cases, they learn through experience. Can you tell more about, for example, if someone wanna jump on this field, where they need to start, how to learn? If someone wanna be an expert like you, what do they need to learn and where to get the skills?
That's a great question, and I think the stuff you said about, I went to business school and I have an MBA in marketing, and I got to tell you, it is very, very different. It's all about getting as much direct experience as you can with the tools and the technologies and the things people are using today. So if I think about when I went from having my degree to actually moving into a job, and I worked at a company called MongoDB, which is, did very, very well. And I was an early employee there. And I just took every piece of responsibility that I could. Hey, we're redoing the website. Great. I will, jump in and see how I can support that process. And I'm going to learn about, this is how web technology works, and this is how CMSs work. Or, somebody has a question about something in Marketo, hey, I'll jump on that. Give me a login and I'll get in. So I think the really important thing is to be having as much direct experience as possible, to be willing to feel like you don't know anything. That's a big part of it too. Just being willing to accept that feeling of, I don't know what this is, but I'm gonna try to figure it out. I'll give you one other little story too, which is when I did my business degree, I actually never went to class. And instead of going to class, I taught myself to code, and I did other stuff that was really useful. So any experience you can get where you're directly working on something, you're accepting that feeling that maybe I don't know what I'm doing. That's the learning. And that's where I think you really, the rubber meets the road on this stuff.
Yeah, I think curiosity can push forward, and if you are curious about the niche, and I think it's even more than learning. I like the word acting. When you learn something, you need to act to check it out how it works. Because, for example, I usually avoid best practices. I try to use them. Because
that's a great quote. I love that quote. I usually avoid best practices. Good to know.
Yeah, because I check out best practices before jumping on LinkedIn. How I can grow on LinkedIn. I use stuff that everyone, that some influencers used before me. But that was interesting. When you have your strong side, you need to develop your strong side. You don't need to copy others. For example, if someone is good with video, it doesn't mean that you need to film video because you love writing. So it's better to consider this.
That's a great point. The other thing I was going to add too is, first of all, digital marketing is unique in that you can see the results of what you're doing much more easily. So that's really helpful for people who are teaching themselves. But the other thing I was going to say too is, and this is a lesson I've just been learning over the past couple of years, getting into these communities where people are asking questions that you might have answers to has been huge. Connecting with you on LinkedIn, right? Here I am, and we're both going to learn from each other because I was posting and talking about things, asking questions to the community. So I would say that's the other really big thing that's going to become more and more important, especially for marketers, is having some kind of presence on social networks or Slacks or maybe a writers group and joining those and seeing again how you can help and what questions people are asking and answering. So anyway, that's another thought there.
Yeah, agree. And my last tip is to be yourself.
Right?
Because I can film stupid videos how I can take cold bath, but someone loves, someone hates. I don't care. It's my style.
We're not going to see you on TikTok, Anatoly?
On LinkedIn, TikTok, YouTube, I share everywhere.
Okay, great. That's awesome. Yeah, cool.
But I'm not good with TikTok. My son, he beats me on TikTok many times. I have only like 70 followers, but he has a lot more, and he always told me, not good. Just go to your LinkedIn. Forget about it.
So he's better at marketing than you are. Yeah. I have a 7-year-old daughter and she's the same. So I understand.
Okay, let's get back to our main topic. Can you tell what type of call to actions we can use today? I mean, like buttons, text, hyperlinks, or anything else. Just share most of them and why we need to use them.
I want to talk about that, and I will get to that. I want to step back and talk a little bit about the idea of the call to action, though, because I think it's a really important sort of thing to rethink what it means, because I think a lot of us think about it in the wrong way. And here's what I mean. Writers and content marketers especially sometimes get this feeling, and I feel this too. You write something and you don't want to push something on somebody. You don't want to have them write it and then you're like, and now I want you to sign up for my product. Sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes it can feel a little bit weird. And so what I've started doing is, instead of thinking of them as a call to action, as something that I'm trying to make somebody else do, what I think about this is, here's how we can help. And I got this idea actually from Josh Spilker, who, you've probably heard of and seen around. He posts a lot. Every time we're creating a piece of content, the end of the content needs to be, here's how we can help with whatever the intent was of the search, with whatever are the issues that we raised in the article, and here's how we can help. And if you think about it that way, the call to action is really just you offering another way to help. And maybe that can be, here's another article. Here's a sign up for our newsletter, because our newsletter is is going to give you important information that you might want if you like this post. Sometimes it might be a product, whatever it is. So I hope I'm not going too far off track, Anatoly, but I think it's a really important point that we need to think differently. It's not about getting people and trying to, get them to convert and, stuff like that. It's about, here's how we can help. So that's number one. And I'll actually pause there in case like you have any questions or you want to talk about that more before I get back to your original question.
Okay. Okay, got it.
But sorry. So in terms of kind of what's available for calls to action, there's so many different ways to do that, right? There's the main, like, super effective one that we see all the time is just having something that's sticky. When people are scrolling down, they're seeing the same thing that's constantly visible on the page. So that's a really great one. We're seeing, obviously, people do things like pop-up boxes and what are called exit intent, where you leave and then there's something that takes over the screen. We're seeing those be less effective, often because, you might collect the email address, but people feel like they have to do it just to get to the content. So that's another kind of class. Another set of calls to action that people don't really think about that often, but we're starting to see more and more of, is chat, like Drift or Intercom or something like that. So that's kind of the universe. And I would say the last thing I'll say, talking about that specifically, is the key for content marketers and writers and people who are putting these calls to action up is to think about them as, here's how we can help, and also to match whatever the call to action is to where somebody is in their buyer's journey. Because if it's the first thing you've seen and it's just really top of the funnel content, and I try to get you to sign up for something right away, might not be helpful to you, might not be the right offer. But if I give you a call to action to read another blog post or download a white paper, that might be better. Very nice. Thank you. I appreciate it.
These guys are from North Korea. They have no internet, but they just sent me this video.
How did you get them on the call so fast? That was amazing. That's awesome.
On StreamYard, we can use it, to add some files,
Yeah, that's great. That's really cool.
Okay, let's talk about surrounding text. For example, if we have some call to action, button, text, anything, how to surround the right text? That because in most cases, users read text, some content, consume it, and they can stick with call to action. How it's better to surround this information? Because in most cases, I don't remember exactly the number, but 80% of users just leave for a few seconds any content. It's like text-based, video content. So how to catch them, hook their attention, and to provide a strong reason to click to this call to action.
Right. That's great. And I think there are a couple of things. First of all, obviously, it's important to have, your call to action or your button or whatever it is, be really clear in the text so people can see it. You have the button is offset or, whatever it is, right? You want it to stand out a little bit. And it's not the worst thing in the world to have a call to action pretty near to the top of the article. That's totally fine, as long as the call to action relates to why the person came in the first place or what, information they might be looking for. So that's the first thing I would say is, in terms of catching people's attention, there's lots of things that your graphic designers can do. But the key thing is to have something that is appropriate for somebody who has not read the whole article, which is likely to be sending them to, another content offer that might be more compelling to them, or having a newsletter sign up or something like that. Another thing that's really important is making sure that the benefit of doing the thing is really, really clear. So, when we talk to people about signing up for our newsletter, just to use a very small example, there are a bunch of ways we could talk about it. We could say, sign up for our newsletter because our newsletter is great. Or we could say, sign up for our newsletter because it's funny, or whatever it is. But what we try to say is, sign up for the newsletter because it contains valuable information, because it contains these tips. Social proof can also be really important. Here's another person who signed up for this newsletter who's done this thing. So when you're trying to get somebody to actually do a thing on your site, you want to catch their attention. You want to get your graphic designers involved. You want to do something that looks good, but also matching it to where they're at in terms of their intent, and making it clear what the benefit to them is of doing the thing. Both super important, very hard things to do.
Yeah, totally agree. Benefits, yeah, it's better to share benefits, what kind of value they can get. It's the same with social media. For example,
Mhm.
if you wanna grow your number of followers to get new loyal audience,
Right.
it's the same. You need to provide a strong reason what kind of value you will
Yes.
bring in the future, because everyone wanna get more value. If they feel to get more value, they will follow you. So
Yeah.
what you need to do, just to share value as maximum as possible. More value, more
Yeah.
results, and more people will follow you. Yeah,
Right.
love it, love
Exactly.
it.
Yeah. And figuring out what the value is also not always that easy. You might spend
Mhm.
a lot of time trying to really understand, how do I talk about why this is valuable, or how do I talk about the value in a quick way that people get? And I think another thing I would say here is that, getting all of those things to work really requires a lot of cooperation. If you're a content writer or a content marketer, you might want to talk to whoever does your product marketing to really
Mhm.
understand deeply what the value proposition of a signup is, for example. So cooperating with other people can be really helpful in getting the right calls to action.
Nice, nice. I can't avoid this question. I can see a few books on your background. Can you tell more? What kind of books do you like to read, and why they are excited you?
Yeah, for sure. When you said I can't avoid this question, I was going to say, well, I lost it about 10 years ago. Uh, yeah, I've got a few books here. I love literature and writing. I
Mhm.
was in college, so I majored in Latin and ancient Greek in college.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that's what I did.
Nice.
No practical value, but I would probably say it helped me in certain ways that we can save for another podcast. So I have a
Mhm.
few things here. I've got this book of poetry by this poem that I really my favorite guy, and I try to think about his poems and the way he writes.
Mhm.
And then I also have a couple of other things. We were actually talking about this on LinkedIn yesterday. This is a
Mhm.
book called A Primer of Potential Literature, Oulipo. And all the things in here are written with special rules. For example, you can't use the letter E.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's kind of, different ways of writing, different ways of storytelling. And then the last thing I have here, my daughter is in a Japanese school. She's learning Japanese. So I have a Japanese book, and this Japanese book is called Don't Push the Button. And the whole
Mhm.
book, when I read it with them, it's about trying to get them to not to do the call to action of not touching the button. And
Mhm.
it is very
Nice.
ineffective. They're constantly wanting to touch the button. So yeah. Anyway, so
Awesome.
I try to keep
Awesome.
this
Yeah.
separate. Yeah.
Yeah, I love reading books. I spend so much time. I decided to quit watching TV before
Yeah.
sleep.
Awesome.
And right now I pay a lot more attention by reading books. So I love learning what others can read. So yeah,
Is there one
it's good.
that comes to mind that you could recommend to me to check out?
The many books, many books.
Yeah.
The last time I started to read Jack London books, I love him. I don't
Oh,
know.
yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
he wrote
Okay.
many great books 100 years ago. So, and I love Martin Eden.
Mhm. Yeah.
And books about two dogs, Jack and Michael. Yeah, no, not
Oh,
Jack.
cool.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is Jack
awesome
London,
books.
is he
Yeah,
the Call of the Wild? Is that Jack London?
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah. I think I
yeah.
read that a while ago, and yeah, and cool. And there's Jack London Square in California and stuff like that. So okay, I'll put that back on the list. Thank you.
Yeah, you definitely need to read the book called Martin Eden.
Okay.
Nice
Martin
book.
Eden.
Yeah,
Got it.
nice book.
Okay.
This book about a guy who didn't have any education, but he
Mhm.
practiced. He acted. It's interesting. 100 years ago, he showed what works today. It's the
Mhm.
same because many people are overlearning and do nothing. But this guy just acted, and
That's great. Yeah.
he achieved high results, much higher than many other people on this age. And yeah, it's actual today as well. Okay,
That's true. Yeah.
okay, let's get back to our main topic. Can you tell how to add call to action to blog posts?
Mhm.
Where we need to put it? I often see when some blogs are overselling. They
Mhm.
submit a lot of sales stuff, and Google might ignore it. But other blogs can get high results. For example, Neil Patel, he shares a lot of overselling stuff, from left side, in the top, from the right side. But he has this authority. He even uses pop-ups that hide the whole window, but it works for him. Can you tell how to find this balance? You need to build this authority and to go ahead, or it's better to minimize these pop-ups and other call to actions? What do you think?
That's a great question. I think it's very complicated. So, I just want to rephrase it for myself. Part of your question, I think, is how do I think about, just doing calls to action in general? But also, I think part of your question is, how aggressive can we actually be with calls to action? We're trying to get people to take conversion actions on the site. And it's a very interesting and hard question. I would say a few things. First of all, there's absolutely risk in let's call it the Neil Patel strategy. No shade on him at all. He's doing it very well. But there's definitely a risk in that. If you are starting out, you don't have a lot of authority, people don't know your brand. The last thing that you want is for them to come to your site and sort of, get the sense that you're trying to sell them something, or, you don't really have the answers to the questions that they have. And so, if you go to a site that I just think about a lot of like random information sites that I might read on the internet, and I just want to learn about some specific, medical topic or something. So I go on WebMD and I get hit by 10 million things, and it's just not good for trust, right? And so if you're just starting out, it's really, really risky to do that potentially. In addition to, Google will penalize you for slow loading pages, for things that change the layout of the page, and also for interstitials, which people don't do very much anymore, which is great that people don't do that. So I would say, I think number one factor is, what is your product and who are you trying to sell to? AirQL works with a lot of enterprise sales, big data, SaaS companies that do contracts with their customers that are $50,000, $100,000, $1 million plus. Okay. And so our customers usually need to build trust, and they need their visitors to see them as trustworthy, calm, reliable. And so the Neil Patel strategy for our customers would be a real problem. And we would never recommend it. However, there are other clients we work with, sometimes e-com, other folks like that, where it works better. So, but I think there's one thing is how much trust. And then I think another thing is, what is the request that you are making? It really comes down to this again. If the request you're making is sign up for the newsletter, sure, you might be able to drive more conversions. You probably will be able to by being more aggressive. But if the request is sign up for a demo, or pay me, or, buy this thing, in a lot of cases that can be, more complicated. So to kind of try to shorten my answer a little bit, thank you for listening. I would say it's about how much trust you need to build with your user, how much trust you already have, and what's your product cycle, and what kind of audience you need to reach.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, valuable. Okay, let's talk about creating the right content strategy. For example, for a new website. And today it's important to consider your buying journey. Yeah, why they buy, when they learn. Can you tell more how to create the right strategy? For example, when we have such competition, if I type on Google any keyword, I can get 1 million results for any keyword. So how to compete with them? How do I know that I can overcome them, especially for a new website?
Absolutely, yeah. You, in the short term, you can't. I'm not gonna be able to, get the number one result for keyword strategy, as much as I would love to do that. We are on page 1 for keyword strategy, but not the top position. That's going to take some time. So the key thing you have to do, and I think it's true in marketing the same way it would be true of any part of business, is you have to find that niche where you can be more valuable than what's out there. You can focus in that area, and you can really produce something valuable, but just in that tiny little area. So for example, one of the things that we work on with clients a lot is keyword strategy stuff. And we might have a client who makes accounting software, and they're not going to rank for accounting software if they're brand new, but maybe their accounting software is unique. It's different in some way. It's different because it's easier to use. It's more user-friendly. Okay. Well, what does the volume and competition profile look like for easy to use accounting software? Or what does it look like for how to use accounting software? And maybe it needs to get even more niche. Maybe it's easy to use accounting software for dentists, and what we have to do is just keep thinking about our content strategy. If we're starting out, what is the biggest niche that we can target where we can really be competitive? And then you focus on that, you win it, whether it's through organic search or paid search or something else. And then once you win it, you're making those sales, the business is growing, and then you invest more resources in a larger play. And that larger play becomes easy to use accounting software. And then in a few years, you win that and you got more resources, and then you invest in accounting software. But it's really about finding that balance of the things that have volume, have relevance, and low competition. And we have a couple of resources that I'm just going to mention. So one of them is a content strategy quick start course that you can find in my LinkedIn profile and other places. And we can talk about this later, but that talks about that. And it really helps you start from scratch. And the other one, which is free on the AirQL site, is our 3-hour keyword strategy. And that one is also about same process of how do I find those little niches where I can start to compete. So that's how I would approach it with a new website.
Nice. How do you measure this competition with SEMrush, Ahrefs, with these tools?
Yeah, we usually use SEMrush or SEMrush as people call it. I don't actually, I've never heard it said out loud. No, I have, but it's hard to know. We use that. There's lots of things you can do. If you don't have an SEMrush subscription, what you can actually do is just Google some stuff and see what the page one results are, but anything that gives you a sense of high, medium, low competition, it'll usually be obvious when you found something, and all the other sites there are ones that you haven't heard of or, whatever, but any tool can be good for that. And then they'll have a stat. If you use SEMrush, they'll have a stat called domain authority, which is honestly estimated, let's just say. And it's estimated based on number of backlinks and stuff like that, but that's a perfectly fine measure.
Okay, got it. I have the question about finding the right copywriter. I can tell why it's important for me, because, for example, when I spoke with many different agencies, business owners in digital marketing, and many of them have different strategies. Some of them can help customers creating content. Others can skip it and tell it's not our main direction. It's better to find someone else. But from my experience, even big companies have this issue, to create content. And when I ask them what's going on, can you write this blog post or create content? They reply, I have no time with that. I need to compete with my competitors because the competition is fierce, and it takes time to find the right copywriter who can create awesome piece of content. So from your experience, how to do it, how to find the right copywriter, even in even big companies, $1 million companies with a lot of sales have this problem. How to find, because for example on Upwork I edit a few times requests and got I don't know, like 100 replies with good feedback, ratings. But when I check out them, no way, it's not good stuff. From your experience, how to do it?
Yeah. I think there are a few pieces. I think number one, you and I talked about this much earlier in the podcast. Building relationships is really important. So I connect with people on LinkedIn, and I have a ton of connections now. Look, I don't know them extremely well, but I have a ton of connections who are copywriters, and some of them post and they talk about the work that they do and stuff like that. So, but I built those relationships before I need them. and I research who those people are before I need them, so that when I get asked by a client to get a referral to a copywriter, I can look through those people and I already know them, and they may not be available if they know somebody else, but relationships are a really important part of it. I would say another really underestimated strategy is content, and this is true for anybody you might want to hire, but content writers, copywriters, they all have their communities. You know, there are Slacks, there are Facebook groups. John Benini runs one. There are lots of folks out there running these lounges, and going into those lounges or going into those spaces, even if you're not that person, and seeing, you know, who's active, who's asking questions, who's answering questions, who's looking for work. That can be a really good way to get a sense of who's going to be a good person to hire, the quality of their work, and also, you know, whether they're going to be a fit. Because that's the third thing I would say is, I think sometimes, especially in marketing, people who are outside of marketing, CEOs and other folks like that, they want the world. You know, they want a copywriter who does CRO and Google Analytics and 8 other things, and they know how to make a great omelet. And it just, you know, you have to be really targeted. It's just like what we talked about with the content niches. It's the same thing when you're hiring somebody. You really have to have a clear sense of, here's what I really need to have. Here's the nice to have. Here's what I really need. And that can help you zero in on, you know, the right people for the job you're trying to do.
Yeah, exactly. You know, when I check out on LinkedIn job tabs, I can see that companies are looking for jack of all trades, you know, who can do everything. They need to create website, to develop, innovate, to create content, to write, to design, you know, to submit. Guys,
it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot for one people. You know, it's for one man. It's interesting that 10 years ago, in my team, we had a web developer who handled our website and 20 others, you know, many different CRMs. Today, we have 2 web developers who only check out our website, optimize, because competition is huge. Technologies are coming fast, so we need to consider them. And it's better to have specialists who pay attention to one topic. Even, for example, in SEO, I'm not good with many directions. Yeah, I know some people who can provide only one link building service, PR campaigns, and earn $1 million. You know, because they're good with that. They're good. I don't know how they can get these links. I can read many guides how to create link building campaigns. I can learn all of them, but they have experience. They know how to do it. So it's not secret. It's more practice. You know, if you wanna develop yourself, just go in one direction.
Yeah, specializing is really good. And the last thing I'll say on that too is, you know, marketing is just getting more and more complicated. Have you ever seen the MarTech landscape? The slide that do you know what I'm talking about? I don't know what it's called, but
I think I've seen on their website.
Yeah, it was this guy named Scott Brinker, and I think I don't know what he's up to these days, but and he put out, this was like 5 or 10 years ago, and this was the marketing technology landscape. And it was this big slide that had all these companies. Oh, you could use this for your email and that for your website and this for your CRM. And it had, you know, maybe 500 companies on it. Okay. And I haven't looked at it in a couple of years, but the last time I saw it, it had 6,000 companies. And that's just for marketing technology. And every single one of those companies has a product that somebody specializes in. So marketing is just, it's getting bigger and bigger and more money. You know, people think, oh yeah, digital marketing, you know, it's already, a lot of people still think of digital marketing as a separate thing. There's a long way to go in terms of the money and the expertise and the tools that are going to continue coming into this space. So anyway, you know, specialization can be very helpful.
Yeah, totally. Okay, I have the question about interlinking. Can you tell practical tips how to interlink content and to bring weight to many different pages?
Yeah, great. Yeah, great question, and so often overlooked by writers. So the number one thing is whenever we write, whenever we provide outlines to our clients, we sometimes write, but generally we don't. But whenever we provide an outline to our client, we literally do a Google search of their site for the blog title that we're writing. So, you know, Google has the site operator, we do site, www, whatever, blah, 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 blah. And that gives us, usually they don't have a resource like that, but that gives us, okay, here's what Google thinks is already the most important stuff for that article. And we take those results and we put them in our outline so that the writer knows what pages they need to be linking to already on the site. The other valuable thing about doing that early on is that it gives you content that already exists. So you can take that content and, you change it or massage it a little bit, but you take it and you put it in the new thing if you can. So that's number one in terms of practical tips for doing that. Number two, and this is more sort of a note of a caution, or maybe not exactly that, but in Google Search Console, you can go into the left-hand pane all the way at the bottom, and there's a links report, and Google will tell you which pages on your site receive the most links within your site. And it's a great thing to look at. And it's important to be sure that the most important pages on your site are getting the most links. And what you can also see in that report is which blog posts, other things like that are getting the least. So a great exercise to do is clients go back, look at that old stuff that doesn't have any links coming in. Have you produced things recently that you could be putting in there? So those are a couple ways that we think about, how to make sure that things are linked up appropriately.
Nice, love it. I usually use Ahrefs to that, because I check out some pages that have high authority and use Google. I submit keywords, my website, and can check out related pages. And just give the task to my content manager, to analyze them.
Also a great tool. Yeah, anything you can do to weave that stuff together, because that's all going to fit into the topic strategy. And every link is a call to action. People don't think about it that way, but it really is. So the more you can get in there, the better.
Nice. Okay, I have the question about your predictions in SEO or call to actions or interlinking. What kind of future will be? Because some of my audience asked me. Some people ask about metaverse will change everything. SEO will die, digital marketing will die. Only metaverse will be there. What do you think about that?
Okay, it's a great question. So number one, I highly doubt SEO is going to die, because there's this company that you may have heard of called Google that depends on SEO being a thing, on organic search being a thing, so that they can show ads. And they make $300 billion a year on ads. I don't know, some huge, I don't know what the right number is, something like that. There's no way. What?
A lot of money, yeah.
It's a lot more. It's a lot of money. There's no way that SEO, that organic search as a channel, let's put it that way, is just going to disappear. Not that it might not change or take on new forms. And I'm not saying anything about 10 years from now, 20 years from now could be a thing. But in the short term and medium term, I think it's going to be, they're going to work on new ways to index more and more information instead of less information. So that's number one. However, I think SEO, we've all seen that shift over the past 5 or 10 years from, it's not about, for a lot, at least the clients that we work with, it's not about, doing backlink campaigns. It's not about, trying to game the description tags and keywords. So, we've all put a lot of that stuff, not all of it, but a good amount of it behind us. And now most people are focusing, they might be doing backlinks, they might be doing other stuff, but they're doing a lot of content, a lot of high quality content that people want to read. They're distributing it through other channels, et cetera, et cetera. So I think my prediction there is we're going to continue to see more investment in content. And the other thing that's going to happen is, if you start to search some of these terms like marketing automation, the entire first page is, what is marketing automation? So we're going to see less and less room to win on that stuff. And it's going to be more about finding those niches, those specific things that we can really win. So that's that. And then I think I had a third prediction as well that I'm trying to, oh yes, there's another thing that people keep talking about too, which is AI generated content. And my feeling with AI generated content is that those are going to become very important tools for writers and marketers to use to make them more productive. But ultimately, I still think you're going to need a human editor and a human writer in the loop to create that content that's actually going to rank.
Nice, nice. Yeah. I use this AI tools. I love them.
Yeah,
I agree with you. I edit a lot because sometimes I can get full nonsense. When I submit
exactly.
topic, keywords, and get something not interesting. But it takes time, to analyze a few variants, to check it out. Sometimes it works, sometimes it's not. But it saves so much time in the
It
end.
does.
Yeah,
Yep. Yep.
yeah.
It's a lever. It's a bicycle, right? For
Mhm.
your content writing, and you're still going to want to, need to walk and be a normal person. But if you're trying to get somewhere fast, it can help accelerate that process of producing good content. But ultimately, you got to have somebody, a person writing it.
Yeah.
It creates some funny stuff though. I mean, there's some really good, fun things that you can get out of prompts, that you give to these AI tools and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
anyway, that's for
Yeah.
another time.
And when someone asked me the question, SEO will die, yeah, someday will die, but I don't know when it happens. I remember when interesting phrase from Jeff Bezos. He said to his team, Amazon will be bankrupt one day, and
Right.
your goal is to procrastinate this process.
Right.
Today I can see SEO is growing, and it will not be like drop, in one day SEO is dead. Yeah,
Right.
possible it's diminishing sometimes, so you can adapt to find new channels. That's okay, but it's not the process for one day or even for a few months. It takes
Right.
years, and
Yep.
right now it's growing.
Yeah,
Simple.
that's what we're seeing too. Totally. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, Justin, it's a big pleasure to get you on my show, to learn from you, to get
Yeah.
a lot of this stuff. Tell our people how they can reach out to you, learn more about you, follow you.
Hit me on LinkedIn. Always happy to chat on LinkedIn. Also, you can go to airql.co, ERCULE.co. And there's a link there for signing up for our newsletter. We have a lot of fun writing that newsletter. We have a lot of fun sending it to people. So please try it out. I don't think you'll be disappointed. And, we're always happy to help and love to just talk with people and learn what they're thinking about. And thank you so much, Anatoly, for having me on here. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a big pleasure. Big pleasure. Okay, guys, you can find all these links in the description below. Listen us on Apple, Google, Spotify. Thanks again for your time. Yeah, it's
All
a
right.
big
Thanks a
learning.
lot. Have a good one.